Number 1. Because I'm scared of others figuring out my true identity, I'll go by Gina. I'll also change the names around of the others too. I've always had a close relationship with my mom. When I was younger, at least, when I finally started school, it was hard for me to make friends, and I'd get bullied a lot because I was so quiet. I've changed schools because the bullying was so bad sometimes I'd hurt myself so I wouldn't have to go to school. For example, I'd step on pins. The first time I liked somebody was in the third grade. We'll call him Carmen, and to me, he was the cutest boy ever. I never spoke to him, but I'd always watch him to make sure he was safe. Whenever he asked to go to the bathroom, I'd sneak out of class and hide between the broken table and the fridge, which was directly across from the boys' restroom. I remember how much joy it would bring me to see his face and to even hear him urinate. I remember one time we were sharing scary experiences, and I shared mine about a spider, and he said he hates spiders too. It was refreshing to know that me and Carmen had something in common. Even though things might have appeared great in the outside, I still received bullying from Melissa and her friends. They realized that I liked him, and they'd urged Melissa to go on and flirt with him. Eventually, the teachers moved Carmen next to me, and for that month I felt like I had him. He would hold my hand and he'd help me with my multiplication. I liked seeing the jealousy in Melissa's eyes. Then, one day Carmen invited me to sit with him, so I did. We were eating and cracking jokes, and then suddenly, Melissa and her friend Asia come up to us and start flirting with him once more. But I paid no mind to it because I was the one that he was sitting next to. Then my world fell apart. He touched her face and called her pretty, of course. This doesn't sit right with me, and I stormed off and left. I couldn't believe he put his hand on her, the same hand he touched me with. I hated that he did that, and I needed to teach Melissa a lesson. The next day, Melissa had gone to the restroom, so I snuck out of the classroom as I had done many times before, and I stood in the restroom and waited for her to come out. She seemed surprised to see me just standing there. I charged towards her and she fell on the ground. I choked her out and slapped her. I told her to leave Carmen alone or else. She agreed and stayed in the bathroom on the floor in shock. Of course, doing this led to even more bullying, and I eventually had to leave that school. Fast forward to the sixth grade, I was dating a girl named Lee. I was absolutely crazy over her, and we ended up dating. Any and everyone that talked to her was my enemy, including my own friends. We were in an off again, on again relationship, and in the seventh grade, we just weren't involved with each other like that anymore. But she had moved on way before I even got the chance to meet someone else, so I gathered as much information as possible about her girlfriend. I asked many people around the school about her, and I was surprised by how many people cooperated. I told everyone on social media about what happened to her when she was younger in great detail and tagged her in it. A lot of people hated me for this, but I still got what I wanted in the end. They broke up 4 months later. In the eighth grade, I met someone named Nathaniel. He had a girlfriend at the time, but I made him break up with her. I pressured him, actually. After he had broken up with her, this annoying girl named Athena started talking to him. I found out where she lived by stealing her phone and checking her recent locations. She always posts on her stories how her window doesn't work in the living room, so I snuck in through there. I made sure my hair was covered so no loose strands would go on the floor. I tiptoed my way into her room where she was still awake but in the dark. She was crying, listening to what I think was a Post Malone. Her parents were arguing in the next room. I crawled under the bed and waited for the arguing to stop for about a half an hour. I checked to see if she was asleep, and she was. I got my Sharpie out of my pocket and wrote Nathaniel all over her walls. I wanted to do something to her, but I didn't and thought that physical harm would only be needed if she didn't get the hint. I went into her bathroom and emptied all of her shampoo out and replaced it with Nair, and I replaced the conditioner with even more Nair. The next week she came to school with a wig on, and she had to draw on eyebrows. There's a police investigation to see if my precious Nathaniel was the one who did this, but there was no evidence that it was him or me. I decided to put the blame on his ex girlfriend, so then Nathaniel wouldn't have to worry anymore. Since his ex and I had PE together, I memorized her hand movements to open her locker, took her lipstick, and a bandage that had a little blood on it. I snuck in her house once more, but this time she wasn't there, so I had to be quick. In the bathroom, I wrote Nathaniel's name all over. I hid the bandage in Athena's room, and I snuck back out. I was excited to find out the next day that she was arrested. Even though I went through all this trouble, Nathaniel and I broke up a few months ago. I'd kill his newest girlfriend if I could. I have information on her, but she lives far away, and I'm not proud of what I've done. But I hope this story can reach others and help them to share their stories as well. Number 2. This is a throwaway account for clear reasons. This is my confessional. I've been looking for a place to speak out about these feelings for about 3 years. So, oh boy, I'm letting all of these feelings out tonight. Yes, this is one of the true stories. But hey, if you don't want to believe it, I think this is a good read anyways. I am hopelessly in love, obsessed, and crazy about my ex boyfriend. We met when I was 14 years old. He was so sweet to me when we first met. We met online through roleplay. Our characters dated for the longest time, and I had always had a crush on him, but he had a girlfriend and I had a boyfriend. I was such an innocent girl back then, and easily taken advantage of back then. I had a pile of family issues, and a close friend had taken their life when I was 13. Those events gave me serious abandonment issues. During the time we were friends, I was raped, and from there started the shitty boyfriends. One after another, they'd hurt me. One dated me from my young age, one used me for sex, the cheater, and one wanted to date me just to hurt me like his ex did to him. They were all short, but still hurt nonetheless. Then, just before my 17th birthday, you had just broken up with your girlfriend, and you confessed your love for me. I was so happy. My best friend loved me? You didn't know you were that, but I had slim pickings. I thought everything would be beautiful, but it wasn't. Far from that. I had told you all the pain I had and I went through, that I never dared to tell anyone until I told you. I didn't want to burden you with that. You told me it was okay because now I was yours, but it was far from okay. I've heard stories of people purposely molding innocent people into Yandere. I can't help but wonder if it was your intention with me. I became codependent of you. You bought me clothes I had always wanted. You spoiled me till the end. You told me I should sell my body to be with you. I did. I would do it again if you wanted. You ordered me to steal from my parents, and I get kicked out for it. I was homeless for so long, but you helped me back on my feet. Gave me money so I would be okay with selling myself on the side too. You later regretted whoring me out. I wish I knew the reason. While being a common whore, I met the man-child I would have left you for. It's clear as day that you were mistreating me, not to mention the 15-year-olds you seduced, claiming they reminded you of me. What did we have in common? Were they vulnerable too? The day I left, I had good reasons, but no one expected you, and I know this. I lost all the friends I had made, but they didn't matter. I still lost you that day, and I still love you. We were friends for a while before you left for good. You left me the day I told you he was beating me. Blocked, forgotten, started dating a close friend. You used my nickname, but I can make accounts to stalk you. You destroyed me emotionally. He destroyed me physically. I counted each day. He abused me for a year and 3 months. I stopped talking to my bestie. She befriended you. She never even asked about things you did to me. I'm furious, but still love you wildly. You took everything from me. I'm dating someone new. He's wonderful and patient, but he still isn't you. I have a job at the airport, hoping to run into you. I almost did, actually. I stalked your Facebook every day. I have friends who tell me when you visit. They think they're helping me avoid you. In reality, they bring me closer to you each year you visit. You don't love her. I can see through your facade. I can't wait for you two to break up. I can't wait to crawl back to you. I've spent over 2 fucking hours looking for your voice messages that you sent me. I deserve to be your number one. I'm so loyal to you, my dear. I visit your Facebook page every day. I think of you in naughty ways. You and I were meant to be together. I put you in a museum of fine arts. You are my muse, and I still love you. But I don't love you. I love the way you make me feel. I play the memories of us over and over in my head. The sweet way you told me you loved me. I just love the pain. But you and the pain are connected, and I accept that. I think about you every day, but I want to let you go, because you're probably never coming back. I would have broken the law for you, but I found so much more to enjoy in life. But that doesn't mean if the day comes that we cross paths, it doesn't mean I won't jump you and tackle you to the ground to kiss you. It just means I want to be free until then. Cheers. I'll be talking about this when I start my therapy next week. Number 3. When I'm with my otaku friends in person or online, the topic of what type of dairy are you, what anime stereotype are you, usually comes up. I would hear their answers and say, as if almost an afterthought, that I'm a Yandere. If only they knew the extent of my crazy. A disclaimer: although I've had a half serious fantasy of violence, I don't actually get physically destructive unless it achieves something, and I can handle the retaliation. I met my first boyfriend online. I stalked his content and became reasonably obsessed. I knew a lot of things about him, piecing posts together from a good picture of him. I fantasized about what he would be like in person. I knew our interaction would just be perfect. He didn't know about my feelings, though, nor spoke to me regularly. I imagined him to be this cool alpha and highly sexual being who I would have an explosive romance with. I thought about him for months and wanted him more than anything. His online presence was like an ignition. It made me feel alive, and I was comforted by it. But at some point, I wanted to break this obsession with him so I can be normal. So I flew to his city in the guise of visiting it for fun and asked him out to lunch. I demonstrated a formidable knowledge about him and the online community we're a part of when we met. He was a quiet introvert, average looking guy, and I got him to book a hotel for us. We made out and messed around, but I deliberately didn't finish as revenge. As we were leaving, I kissed him in the elevator, much to his surprise, and he drove me back to my Airbnb. That was the beginning of a 1 year relationship where I moved in after 3 months of knowing each other. It was filled with breakups, lies on his end, I'm always honest, and craziness. It finally ended with me swearing off relationships and dating for a year. This year I became obsessed with another guy online. He was a friend who helped me out when things were rough 3 years ago. He was also hard to get in the beginning, but he grew to like my company, and we did voice chats every now and then. After not talking to him for 2 years, I got in touch with him this year, and the wheels in my mind started to turn again. I imagined him to be the stereotypical, cool, intellectual character from anime. He's in a big city, and he now has a proper yuppie job in finance. He's 23. So you can imagine my fascination with having a steamy romance with someone wearing a suit. A big change. Fuck yes. I thought about him a lot, even though I haven't seen his photo, nor do I have a specific idea about his ethnicity. I moved to his city 2 months later, not only to see him, but to experience that beautiful city. He was definitely the catalyst, though. After a month, we met. I dealt with him calmly, like a doormat, instead of exploding and being upfront. But I was so annoyed by how unresponsive he was when he found out I was actually moving there. Anyway, we met in person. He's this tall guy who has beautiful bone structure. He was wearing glasses too. Yes, yes, yes. To cut this short, he rejected me, and later I sent him a long text revealing my true motives and feelings. I spent the next month crying at least once a day as if we broke up. I would cry while on the subway, before sleeping, while just walking around, because we would be so perfect together if he would just look at me again. So it's been 2 months since we met and I moved back to my previous city. But I still think about him at least once a day, particularly when I'm pleasuring myself, even though I've already forgotten his specific facial features. So in my fantasy, he's a tall, dark, handsome stranger who knows how to push my buttons the right way. And also, I actually recorded our conversations when we met using my second phone, but I'm afraid to listen because I would just be filled with regret and cringe all over again. I was in the shower just before writing this, fantasizing about going back to that city which I miss so much. Every day, or when I have time, I would ride the train that I know he rides in hopes of seeing him again. I would be much more attractive with the slimmer frame, double D's, shoulder length hair, and new fashion style. I would almost be like a different person. Would he be curious or something? Anything? Hopefully, something would eventually happen. But knowing that he is curious about me would be enough. When he sees me, I'll act nonchalant and pay him no attention to confuse him. I would haunt his periphery, and he would have no specific idea what my goal is. I think it would be so fun. Even when I first arrived there, I walked around the general area where he told me he works, even though I have no idea what he looks like. I got a thrill at the thought of him seeing me, admiring me, and not even knowing that it's me. In my fantasy, I would also walk around where he works, looking so damn fine, hoping that our paths would cross at lunch or during rush hour. I've also thought about looking discreet and unrecognizable and standing near his place of employment and hoping I get to see him go to work. I've also thought about dating someone who also works in the same building. That way I'd have an excuse to accidentally stumble into him. I also thought about dating his boss or working there. I would seriously do all of this because he might eventually like me. I also find it so damn fun and thrilling. I tried looking up stalking on Google so I can find people I can relate to who feels like I do. But I didn't find much, because I'm not physically harming him, and psychologically, the impact is minimal and not negative. It's all about subtlety. I moved to different cities for men I barely knew because I was obsessed with them. With this 2017 man, I know I would open up his narrow world and make him so happy. We could have cute dates, I would be affectionate, and we'd have great sex, but he rejected me already, so my only option is to haunt him. I know I need to be more normal and fall for guys who are nearby and who aren't so emotionally unavailable. I need to find a new guy in person to obsess with, though. I'm not in love with you if you don't trigger my stalker side. Number 4. So, I know what a Yandere is, and I felt this was the best place to share my story. I'm a 28-year-old male in Australia, but this story takes place about 4 or 5 years ago. I was living in an apartment in Brisbane with all the normal, boring job at Big W. I was always walking around and asking people if they needed help. There was this girl who came in a lot over the time that I worked there. She would come in a lot and buy a lot of the new realist books. I never talked to her, but it was hard not to notice. She was 6'1", she wore super bright clothing, her hair was dark brown, and always in a high ponytail. I thought she was rather gorgeous. One day, while I was walking about, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned to see the girl. She smiled and with a sweet voice asked if we had a book called Red Queen. At the time, the book was sold out in the store. I quickly checked to see if it was getting restocked. It was, so I told her to come back in about a week. She thanked me before leaving. The order came in a few days later, and she came in on the same day. Soon after, she asked for my book recommendations. I'm not much of a reader, but I loved the Percy Jackson books when I was younger, so I told her to give it a shot. She bought the book and left. The next day, she came back in and told me she loved it. I was glad I was able to help. She ended up telling me her name. I'll be changing the name for privacy, so let's just say Emily. We ended up talking for a bit before she left without buying anything. That confused me. But people did it all the time. They'd look around and leave without buying anything. Emily started coming in more frequently, to the point where there wasn't a day at work I wouldn't see her. Eventually, she asked if we could hang out outside of my work, and I agreed. She was lovely to talk to, so we swapped numbers. Emily and I became friends. I'd only text her, and we'd agree to meet up sometimes, usually at a coffee shop. She still came into my work. We'd talk, and she'd buy another book. But everything changed soon after. My boss didn't like that I was wasting so much time talking and not doing my job. I apologized and told Emily. She seemed somewhat pissed off, but she said she would not come in as often, and I thanked her. One night, one of my friends and I decided to go clubbing. I met a lovely girl, let's call her Poppy. Again, not her real name. We immediately hit it off, and it didn't take us long to start dating. A few days later, we decided to go on our first date. I texted Emily and told her I couldn't text that night. She asked why, and I told her I was going on a date. She seemed to understand. Spoilers, I was wrong. Poppy and me had a fun dinner, and I walked her home. She thanked me before heading inside. I drove to my apartment and went to walk inside. I was about to unlock the door when I noticed a box in front of it. The box wasn't big and could easily be held in one hand. I picked it up and walked inside. I went straight to the couch and opened the package. Inside of the box there was an envelope and a small ponytail of brown hair as well. I ruled it off as one of my friends pranking me and opened the envelope to see what they had written. Instead, there were photos instead of a note. I felt scared when I saw them. They were all pictures of me. A few from at work, others of me doing nothing in particular, like in a coffee shop, that stuff. And then the last picture shocked me even more. The picture was of me laying in my bed asleep. My friend barely slept over at my house. I turned the photo over to see a message. It read, I wanted to give you a piece of something important to me, and next to it was a heart. I picked up my phone and called my best friend. He picked up after the second call. What the hell, man? I'm trying to sleep. What do you want? He asked. Why did you send me this creepy package? I asked him. He was confused and claimed he had nothing to do with it. I sighed before hanging up and checking the outside of the box for a return address. There wasn't one. That meant someone had to physically go to my door and put it there. I started to get freaked out, so I called the cops. Two of them came about a half an hour later. I told them and showed them the box and the contents of what was inside. They told me I should stay somewhere else for a few nights while they tried to find out who did it. I agreed and called Poppy. I told her what happened and she agreed to let me stay at her house. I packed my things and drove over. We talked for a bit when I got there and we arranged my bed. It was just some sheets and a pillow on the couch. I didn't mind. Soon she went to bed. I decided to tell Emily what happened. I texted her the details of how creepy it was. She got pissed off when I called it creepy, saying things along the lines of, I think it was cute and considerate, and you should appreciate things more. They took time out of their life to take these pictures and cut their hair. I thought that was idiotic. A day passed and Emily was demanding I went to hang out with her. I agreed. I said bye to Poppy and went to the park. When she arrived, her hair was now a bob, and she had a fringe. I complimented her hair, and she seemed so happy that I did. I thought of the hair that was sent, and from memory, it was about the same color. I brushed past that, thinking it was just a coincidence. We continued to hang out, and Emily said something that made my heart stop. I wonder how they broke into your apartment. I never told her about the photo that was taken of me sleeping. I laughed it off, saying I didn't know either. I made an excuse to leave and went straight to the police station. I told them what happened. About a day later, they confirmed that Hare's DNA matched up with Emily. They arrested her. I couldn't help but feel bad, but it was for my safety. I got a call soon after, and it was Emily. She was crying, and I asked why did she do it. Because I love you, and you decided to date that Poppy girl. Why'd you replace me? I loved you. I spent so much time on me. You're an asshole. It soon turned into choked out cries. The phone hung up out of nowhere. A few days passed, and the police showed up again. They told me what they found at her house. Multiple pictures of me. Plans she had made involving kidnapping and so many messed up things. There were even two plans to murder Poppy. Apparently, from the research, she'd been stalking me for a while. I felt sick to my stomach. I broke up with Poppy and told her everything. I didn't want her getting hurt. She understood, and about 2 weeks later, I decided to move. I didn't feel the same in my apartment anymore. So far, that's the end of my story. I haven't heard anything from Emily since, and now whenever I see an anime for something with Yandere, I get scared. I wonder what had happened if Emily decided to go through with her plans.